Good afternoon, students. Welcome to the 2018 exam-based contact class for learning support in natural science and health. My name is Ms. Simon Mwalwa, and I'm your tutor for this subject. First of all, the outline of the presentation. You can see that it consists of 3 bullets. It's short, but the content itself within the learning support in natural science is heavy. We cannot be able to capture it all here, but before I even start with the outline, I want to urge you to please make sure that when you go through, I want you to come back to me so that I can give you a comprehensive one, especially if you can see that you are struggling to find a specific content within what I'm going to discuss. Please feel free, if you don't have internet access, to send me an email. I want you to even send me just a text to say, can you send me more information with regard to this? I will gladly be able to come back to you. I can even call you because I know I'm going to cover a lot within a short period of time, which is just 30 minutes. But feel free, I'll be waiting for you so that I can give you the detailed content of what I'm going to discuss here. So now back to the presentation. The outline of the presentation, we are just going to look at how you would, just the tips on that will help you when you're going to answer the exam questions. What is it that you look at? And then we'll look at the examples that show the type of understanding. If you want to pass this exam, what understanding is it that you require so that you can be able to answer the questions successfully? And then I will leave you the contact details, which is very important. I want you to come back to me because I want at the end of the day all my students to get good grades so that they cannot fail this subject. How to answer the, sorry, it's not assignment, it's supposed to be exams. So first, you need to read all the questions, read it and read it carefully before you answer them. So you look at the time you are given and the marks, how many hours are you supposed to complete the exam, and then you weigh your times so you can manage it in a way that you say, maybe in question 1 is just 10 marks, I'll spend 5 minutes so that you can be able to finish within the time given. And then you need to please answer all the questions that is required. So if all of them are compulsory, then you need to answer all the questions. If it's optional, you need to choose, then make sure that the ones that you choose, the required ones, are answered fully. And even if you think you do not know the answer, at least try. Don't leave it like that, especially with learning support in natural science and health. It's all about the support. It's more general. You can be able to get marks by trying. So the bad part is when you leave it blank, then you will not get any mark for that. So you ensure that you are guided by the marks allocated also. Make sure that before you answer the question, you also look at the marks that is required. How many marks is that question? So that when you are going to answer based on how much should I give, so that you cannot fill the A4 page when it's just 2 marks. So look at the marks also. And then you should be guided by the verbs. It's very important. Guided by the verbs, for example, when you need to list, that's when you list. But when they say discuss, then it's more of paragraph format. You need to discuss, to describe, to name. So go back to your module and you look at Roman 4 to 6. It will tell you further what do they mean when they say list and what do they mean when they say discuss, describe, and name. Now we start with our presentation. What is it that you require? What is it that you need to understand so that you can answer your exam questions successfully? So that you can be able to, when you are going to study now with your 2018 exams, what do you need to focus on, what do you need to prepare or to understand fully, so that even if a question comes from this angle, you'll be able to answer it, whatever angle that question will be coming from. If you understand what we are going to discuss here, you will not go wrong. You need to know the factors, for example, that contribute to the good conducive atmosphere in the natural science and health class, as well as the ideal classroom environment. So when you look at, for example, when you go in your module, you will come across for example, the positive presentation of a conducive learning environment in natural science and health class. So it's several points that you need to look at. For example, you need to look at the teaching and learning that needs to take place within the natural science and class. You need to look at the architecture, for example, and the furniture of the classroom. How do you need to arrange your furniture in the class in a way that it's going to support learning within that class? How are you going to do that? When you need to look at the temperature also and the light within the class. If it's dark, for example, there's no light, the bulb is not working, how is that going to support learning? As opposed to when the bulb is working, when the light is optimum, and then the kids can be able to see at the board, they can be able to see when they are writing in their books. So which one supports learning in the natural science and class? Go back to your modules and other sources that you get information from, and look at what are the positive presentation, or what are the conducive atmosphere that will support learning within the natural science and health. Another point, you also need to understand the features of emotional support by the teacher when they refer in terms of their passion for teaching. So as we all know, teachers need to have passion. They need to be passionate about the teaching, what they do. You need to be passionate about what you do. So when you are passionate, that means that in a way, you will even know how to deal with support issues when it comes to the natural science and class and natural science and health class. So when you are passionate, for example, you will see that this person is so caring about the learners. They don't just teach and then they stand in front and finish teaching there without even going around the class to see how the learners are doing, to see who is not writing, who did not do the homework. But as a passionate person, you need to be caring about the learners. Even if it's a slow learner, you'll be able to pick them up and give them the necessary support so that they can keep up with the rest of the class. So you also need to show respect for the learners. In return, the learners will also respect you, and then you should then promote respect amongst the learners. They should also respect themselves. In a way, you are also supporting their learning because they know they can trust you. If they have an issue, they can be able to approach you because they know that you have their best interest at heart. And very important, the skill that you need is you need listening skills. You need to be able to listen to those learners with understanding so that you can be able to capture the message they are trying to communicate to you. Because if you're not listening, you'll not be able to get the message. At the end of the day, when the learner sees that even if I go to my teacher, she or he will not be able to assist me, they will not come to you anymore, then you will see that their performance will go down because there is no support that is needed. Then you will see that also eventually they will withdraw, and then they are not even doing their homework and all that. So for you make sure that you are passionate in what you are doing. You make sure that whatever you are doing is for the best interest of your learners. You also need to know how to assist the underachievers in your natural science and health class. By underachievers, we mean that there are those learners that are a bit slower than the others. There are those ones that are always getting 50% and less in every work they do. So how do you go about to support them so that they can at least also go beyond 50%, so that they can at least go 80%? Because some of these learners, they have other problems. So if you know how to support them, how to go about supporting them, if you respect them, like we said earlier, you will be approachable to them. You will be able to support them when the time such as not able to achieve the grade in the class comes up. So it means that the relationship between the educator and the learner should be established in a way that these two parties can be able to engage with each other when time arises. And also, some learners, they will not be able to really achieve much because when they study alone, they do not understand. But if you create, for example, platforms where they are engaged in discussions, when they are doing debates, when there are opportunities such other maybe group work, then they can be able to engage with the others, then they can be able to also learn from the others. So you need to give such platforms or opportunity like that so that they can also catch up with the rest of the learners, so they can also be motivated because of the other learners. You need to also understand the importance and influences of human health and development to the learners. Learners go through stages of development. So you need to see now if a certain stage comes up, will learners be able to deal with that stage? For example, they come across puberty and sexual development. So now when they go through these changes, they also changes and even their behavior and everything. So when you are with such learners in the class, how are you going to support them in such a way that their development will not affect their performance? So emotional development, for example, these learners go through transformation. This is the time when they start developing emotions, when they even start engaging with the other learners emotionally, and then with that, sometimes it really affects them because when during puberty these learners becomes emotional, then they have other problems that comes in. They have developmental issues. So for them now to be able to cope with such issues that comes up, for example, you will need to if you understand them, then they can be able to even create things such as group support, so that when they discuss such issues, when they come together and then they relate with each other, there will be a way forward, as opposed to when they are just left on their own. Issues of self-esteem, there's a lot of developmental stages that you need to familiarize yourself with. You need to understand them, and you need to know that when a learner comes across this stage and they need assistance, how are you going to support them so that it does not affect their learning within your class? Know what learner-centered approach is and why it's recommended in natural science and health. In natural science and health, we support collaborative learning, we support group learning, we support an environment that is hands-on, interactive, where learners come together and put the ideas together, and they come together, they discuss, they put the ideas together, they learn from each other. So with learner-centered, you usually have 5 stages that we deal with, because it usually comes, most of this question comes 30, 20, 25 marks. So you need to discuss step by step. For example, you need to look at the learner's aspect of when in terms of this approach. You need to look at the material, you need to look at the competency that learner will get as a benefit of being taught using the learner-centered. You need to look at the teacher as a facilitator, because in learner-centered, learners are in charge of their own learning. They will be able to, they are the one that in charge. That it's not the teacher that gives all the information as if learners are not able to also contribute. So a teacher is rather there to just facilitate, to just assist, but learners are in charge of their own learning. And then you also need to look at learners as active learners, as actively involved in the learning process. You go back to your modules and other sources that you use, and then you interrogate the learner-centered approach, its advantages, and why we recommend to use it in natural science and health. You must have a clear understanding of what scientific observation entails, as well as the importance of accurate measurement. With accurate measurement, we usually do measurements. B is the mass, B is length, B is the temperature. We do a lot of measurement in life. So why is it important that when you measure, when you do your measurement, it should be accurate? So, for example, we talk of the length. How do we measure length, for example? What is length? So when you are talking about, I want to measure this length, that means you have 2 points and you want to measure between A and B, the length between A and B. What do you use? You either use a ruler, you can use a meter, you can use a tape, you can use any other. So you need to now know what is the why is it important to measure such. So go through all the measurement types of measurement we do, or how do we do it, and then you are good to go. You must know how a teacher can give support to the learners when giving them feedback on a certain task. So usually when you give them a test, when you give them a homework, when you give them a classwork, when you give them any other work, a project, at the end of the day, when you finish marking them, then you need to give them feedback so that they can improve for next time, for exam, and then so that they can learn something for life. So what is the best way that you can give this feedback? Because usually when a child did not get a good mark, or when they get something wrong, you can't just say, no, you got this one wrong. Look at what you did now. This is not right. Can't you do something better? You can't do that. How best can you do it as a teacher in a way that at the same time it's going to be a motivating factor for this learner to be able to even want to do their own corrections, and also to remember forever, if not when they're going to write exams. So simple things, for example, the use of the learner's name. So when you are giving a feedback, use learner's name. Matthew, well done, except that you needed to use the learner's name. When you associate the task with the learner, they will feel proud. They would want their name to be mentioned every time. Try it, it will work. And then you need to praise what is good. Well done, very good. Keep it up. So that they can even be more motivated to do it well or excellent next time, because they know that the teacher recognizes what they do and the effort they put in also. And also remember not to be judgmental, because the moment you start judging them, then they also feel low about themselves, that they can't do it. When they believe they can't do it, their self-esteem will be low. That means that in your class, they will not be able to do their best anymore, because they feel, oh, even if I put in effort, I will never do good. So rather, don't be judgmental. Try to improve your learners with positive comments, commentations, and all the positive reinforcement you can think of. Talking of reinforcement, you should understand the concept reinforcement, why we use it in the natural science and health class, and also what do you do if learners do not understand during the reinforcement and assessment. So like if you are going to help learners learn better in your class, in your natural science and health class. Of course, you need to reinforce whatever they do with either positive comments, or you praise them, or you give them gold stars so that they feel that their work is worth the effort. So now when you assess them, you need to look at you need to understand that whatever you say will have an impact to them. The reason we use reinforcement is so that we can reinforce what is good, we can praise what is good, and then we can comment and help learners to improve for the future. So with that, now you need to understand the whole concept of reinforcement. What do they mean when they talk about reinforcement? And then why do we use it? What are the advantages of using it in the class? And then now if, for example, if learners do not still understand what material, maybe you are using this material, or maybe you never use practical materials, maybe it's time to look at that, the different materials that can make them think differently from the way you give the first task. Maybe you can also, you see how you can give that activity in a way that it's not the same as the first one that you gave, or visualize the material that they need to work with, so that they can also remember, so that they can also be able now to pass that task. You must know how to deal with gender issues in the natural science and health class. Gender issues, male, female, who can do better? If I'm going to give this task, I think male can do better than females. That is not the way to go in our natural science and health class. Let's look at gender issue, because it's a very sensitive issue when we are in our natural science and health class. When you give a task, you need to be aware of how you treat your learners. If it's not equal, the moment you say, this is, I think male will do better than female, even your marking will be in such a way because you already believe that. So by all means, try to make sure that you give both gender equal opportunity. When you give the task, it should be the task for both, because they both can do it. They both can do it, given the opportunity. Give them the opportunity. When they are in the group, when they are in the group, when they are discussing, you have a task and you want it to be a group work, make sure that you don't group them in a way that girls are on their group and then boys are in their group. Mix them so that it's not a gender issue anymore, but it's a gender balance. You give the task to both so that they don't feel like, oh, maybe the girls are given the easy one because they can't do the tough ones. Because girls can also do the tough ones. Give them equal opportunity, give them the same task, and make sure that when they discuss in groups, it's a mixture of both genders. You must know how to use learners to teach their peers in your natural science and health class. When it's just you teaching every day, is you standing in front of the class. Yes, they are learning. They are learning from you, but it will be a bonus if you ask one of them to explain to the others of a certain concept. There are times when you can see that there is this learner that can be able to explain, or there is this learner that I want to motivate so that they can pick up. So you can give them that opportunity. You are good at this one. I know you can do it. Come and explain to your fellow learners or your peers about this one. And then you are also boosting their confidence, and at the same time you are supporting them so that when they are going to even learn, when they are going to study on their own, they can remember. Personally, if they were the one that is giving the explanation, they can remember that. And the ones that were given that explanation can remember. It's easy to remember when it's your peers compared to when it's your teachers. So you can try this also sometimes. Give them work so that they can be able to teach each other. After a group work, for example, when it comes to giving feedback, let them give feedback to each other. Rotate it so that each and every learner in the class get an opportunity by the end of the semester. You should know how to pose a question to stimulate thinking in your class. When you ask questions, you need to ask questions in a way that learners can be able to think. So you stimulate thinking, meaning that you give them an opportunity to think. By that we mean, apart from also encouraging them to ask you questions, you should also ask questions that have the ability to stimulate their thinking. Instead of asking, name a region, rather ask a question that has a how and why in it. Why do you think we need to do this? Why do you think, what do you think Namibia need to do in order to, for example, in order to encourage innovation, for example? Instead of saying, name the innovators that you know maybe or something like that, ask them, why do you think, what do you think we should do? Then that question in itself will encourage learners to think. You need to know the role technology, you need to know the role of technology in the teaching and learning process. We all know that generally technology plays a very big role in the teaching and learning. So when you are going to prepare your lessons, so what is the role of technology within that teaching and learning? You look at technology, the use of technology in school itself, the use of computer in terms of how do children use computers in terms of teaching and learning. For example, if there's a computer center, they can be able to use it to do their homework. If there's an internet, they can be able to do it to search about certain topics or an assignment or a project that they are given. That is technology at work. You can also use technology in the fields. I mean, when it comes to field work, because there are times when you want to go to the field to do a certain work, but maybe there is constraints that you cannot be able to get there, be it money, be it time, be it transport that can get you there. So how do you use technology now to make sure that you still achieve your lesson? So the use of internet, you just have to show your learners also how to get this information. For example, you go to the computer, you get this information, and then you use it. If it's instead of looking at the flower live, you look at the picture, it's still a flower, and you can still be able to achieve the same objective. You also need to understand the need to consider learners' previous experience during teaching. When learners come to class, they have something in their mind that they can relate to during the teaching and learning process. Be it that they got it from the environment, they got it from the families, maybe they were discussing it, even when they come to class, they look around, they can pick up something that can be able to be used during a teaching and learning process. Or they learned it maybe from the previous grade. So you need to consider also that they are not empty vessels, they also carry knowledge, so you also need to consider that when you are preparing for your teaching and learning. And in a way, it can also assist them to construct knowledge actively. They can also be able to relate and associate when they are during the teaching and learning, because they are dealing with things that they can be able to relate to, things that they have seen before, they have learned before. So it will also help them in terms of learning something from the lesson. You need to know how to make the teaching of magnetism and electricity hands-on. How do you teach magnetism? How do you teach electricity? And how can you, when you are teaching these ones, how can you bring in the aspect of hands-on learning also? So what materials can you use? And overall, how do you teach so that the learners can be able to understand magnetism and electricity? You need to understand why teachers plan before the lesson. Why do you plan before the lesson? Why can't you just wake up, go to class, and just start teaching? Why do you need to prepare first beforehand? Be it a practical experiment, be it just a normal lesson. You still have to prepare. You need to know why. With that, for example, before I go to the next page, we need to plan so that in terms of, for example, the practical lesson, if you plan before, then you know things are working. When you come in, you know that when I do this experiment, it's not going to fail. You know, you keep trying until you get it. And then when it's the lesson, you don't even waste time anymore. And you also know what you've covered already and what you're going to cover. And it will also help you to know now and plan so that you can emphasize where the learners have shortcomings. And then you also it will also help you to know that to know where learners excel, so that you can also assist them where they are struggling, and you can praise them where they are doing well. We've come to the end of our presentation. Remember, with learning support in natural science and health, it's mostly the support that you need to give during your teaching and learning in natural science and health. So you can be able to apply, even if you know you've learned it or you did not. Instead of leaving the page blank, you have to use your imagination. That's why they say if you don't know the answer, use your imagination. With learner support and with learner support in natural science and health, try to use your imagination. Do not leave the question blank, because it will help you at the end of the day. So once again, my contact details: email jenninanjala@gmail.com. The cell phone number 08162836653. Make sure that you even just text me. You can give a specific issue which is a struggle to you. I will come back to you. These days we have our way. We can be able to talk, and then I can be able to answer your question. If you have an email and you can email me, it's even a bonus, because then I can send you a comprehensive answer to your question, so that it can help you prepare for your exam. With that, good luck for all your 2018 exams, and hope to see all the passes at the end of the day. Thank you.